The Kanto region and the Unova region have more in common than you at first might realize. It should come as no surprise that the Unova region draws heavy inspiration from Kanto. I mean, the Gen 5 games were a soft reboot of sorts to the Pokemon franchise. In the first Black and White games, we got 156 new Pokemon, and these new Pokemon were the only ones we were able to use in the main story. But to create a sense of familiarity for players, a lot of the Gen 5 Pokemon are heavily based on the original 151. There's obvious ones that come to mind like the Fighting Brothers or regional rodents, but after a much deeper look, there's more than you might expect. And so today, we're going to be discussing, comparing, contrasting, and calculating each familiar Pokemon between the two regions. We'll be looking at things like design, lore, usage, and strength, among many others. Each win will count as a point for your respective region, and we will calculate the final score at the end of this video. But really quick, stop what you're doing. I need you to use 10 million volt Thunderbolt on that like button. Awesome, let's begin. We'll start where all Pokemon journeys begin, with starter Pokemon. Ah yes, one of the most difficult decisions of our childhood. Let's take a look at both groups. In Kanto, we have Venusaur, Charizard, and Blastoise. Undoubtedly some of the most iconic and influential Pokemon of all time. Over the years, these starters have received the covers of multiple games, Mega Evolutions, Gigantamax forms, and leading roles in the anime. As for the Unova starters, they've received, well, I guess Samurott got a Hisuian form. Yeah, I'm not gonna waste anyone's time here. This point obviously goes to the Kanto starters. While yes, these starters may have been shoved down our throats over the years, it's deserved. These designs are epic, and each of them have played a major role in the series. Without these three, Pokemon just simply wouldn't be the global phenomenon that it is today. So, Kanto will earn the first point of today's video. Now we're gonna change it up a bit. We're gonna compare the last Pokemon in the Kanto Pokedex and the first Pokemon in the Unova Dex. Yup, we're gonna be looking at the tiny, cute, 600 base stat total mythicals from each region. That of course being Mew and Victini. Now there's a lot to like about both of these Pokemon. For Mew, he's probably the most sought after Pokemon in the whole series. Even 30 years later, he's still incredibly elusive and tough to capture. His lore's pretty interesting as he's known as the ancestor of all Pokemon. In battle, Mew has amazing versatility. Over the years, it's been used as a sweeper, a wall, or even a transforming surprise. As for Victini, while the lore and popularity might not be quite as strong as Mew's, there's no doubt that it's an epic Pokemon in its own right. I really love its typing and design. I actually think it vastly outshines Mew in both respects. In battle, it hits much harder than Mew, and that's mostly thanks to its move pull and ability. Moves like Bolt Strike, Blue Flare, and of course V-Create do huge damage to any opponent. Overall, this one's a toughie, but honestly, nostalgia aside, I'm gonna give the win to Victini, but it's definitely a close one. I think the colors and personality behind Victini give it the slight edge. The next archetype we'll be comparing is that of the regional rodents. As such, we'll be looking at Rattata and Patrat. Yikes, both of these guys are kinda stinkers. They both simply don't hold up to other epic rodents like Bidoof and Lechonk. Let's just power through this one together. So, Rattata is bad. Both his and Raticate's designs are terrible. And somehow they even got worse with their Alolan variants. In my opinion, Rattata is known for three things. First, it was many trainers' first ever capture in all of Pokemon. Second, it freaking spammed many of us in the early years of Pokemon Go. And last, but certainly not least, it's known for its epic Endeavor Quick Attack combo. I remember stumbling upon this video when I was a young boy and it blew my mind. I thought Rattata was a god. Now let's discuss the Unova rodent, Patrat and Watchog, another set of brutally designed mons. I really don't have a lot of good things to say about these guys. Actually, I only have one. The one thing I like about this Pokemon is its hidden ability, Analytic. This ability multiplies the strength of attack by 30% if the Pokemon moves last in battle. Yep, that's it. While I don't like either of these Pokemon, I'm gonna go with Rattata as my regional rodent of preference. Alright, let's move on. From one regional mon to the next, let's fly through this one and compare the regional birds. That of course being Pidgeot and Unpheasant. Ugh, another lackluster duo here. This time how about we start off with Unpheasant? Well, it's pretty dang unpleasant, let me tell you. Well, I'll admit, in battle, it's fun to use the Super Lux Scope Lens combo with moves like Air Cutter. Pretty much everything becomes a boosted critical hit. And I also like the pink little goggles the male form has. But beyond that, there really isn't much to like here. In the anime, Ash Ketchum's Unpheasant is far and away his worst regional bird, and his most forgettable. Meanwhile, Pidgeot isn't all that much better. While yes, it definitely set the tone for what a solid regional bird should be, it hasn't really aged all that well. I'd say of all the regional birds, he's near the middle. What will give Pidgeot the win here is a mixture of having a better design, having access to a solid Mega Evolution, and of course, Ash Ketchum's iconic Pidgeot in the anime. Well, yes, it was pretty bad in battle. It had 2 iconic episodes. That, of course, being the episode where he evolves into a Pidgeot and protects a bunch of Pidgeys, and also Ash Ketchum's last ever episode, when it comes back decades later to save Ash and Pikachu. A solid send-off for sure. All that helps earn Pidgeot the win here. This next one is a fun one. We'll be looking at the respective bat from each region. That, of course, being Woobat and Swoobat from Unova, and Zubat and Golbat from Kanto. We will not be counting Crobat here, as it was not added to this line until the Johto region. Alright then, let's discuss. Starting off with the original bats here, and there isn't a whole lot to like. Their most memorable and iconic trait is that they're annoying. These things are pure OG meme material, and I'm not really sure that's a good thing. If we're being brutally honest, Crobat is the one thing that totally saves this line. The original 2 bats are fast, but that's about it as far as battling prowess. Overall, they're just kinda bad. And don't even get me started on that Golbat sprite from the Gen 1 games. Now, looking at the Unova bats, let's begin with their design. Well, I won't say they're much better, I will say they're unique. But besides the design, Woobat and Swoobat outclass the Zubat line in every way possible. Their typing is worlds better, and in battle, they're much, much better. With their simple ability and calm mind, you can sweep through just about any team with its stored power. In short, the bats from Unova take an easy win over the bats from Kanto. Now, how about a 2-for-1 by comparing the regional bug duos of each region, with Butterfree and Beedrill representing Kanto, and Scolipede and Leavanny representing Unova. Wow, this one's gonna be tough. We'll begin with the Butterfly from Kanto. Like Rattata, Caterpie was likely one of your first ever captures in all of Pokemon. And if it wasn't your first ever capture, it was possibly your first ever evolution, as it evolves quite easily and at a low level. And while yes, it may not be all that powerful, it's definitely gotten stronger as the years went on. With access to all the powder moves as well as Quiver Dance, it's aged relatively well. Plus, how could I not mention Butterfree's epic Mothra-inspired Gigantamax form? Meanwhile, in the anime, Ash's Butterfree had one of the most emotional send-offs of all time. Beedrill has definitely not had as much time in the spotlight as Butterfree. However, I must mention his Mega Form he received in Gen 6. It was a huge upgrade to a normally underwhelming bug. It honestly made him pretty broken. The Cantonian bugs will be tough to beat, but let's take a look at the buggy boys from Unova. Leavanny may just be the most underwhelming bug on this list. Its design is cute, but that's about it. As for Scolipede, he may just be the most viable bug on this list from a battling standpoint. Speed Boost is a straight up broken ability, and with access to moves like Swords Dance, Substitute, Baton Pass, Mega Horn, and Poison Jab, this mon can quickly take over a battle. This comparison was probably the toughest so far in this whole video, but after a lot of thought and consideration, I'm gonna give the bugs of Kanto the slight win here, and it's mostly because they've just had a larger and more impactful role on the franchise. Now for a matchup I'm really excited for. Next, we're going to be comparing the 3-stage rock/boulder Pokemon of each region. Both the Geodude line and the Roggenrola line are pretty epic. Let's analyze them, shall we? It's interesting to note that they both require a trade to reach their final form. That, and they can be found in just about every cave from their regions. They're also both pretty well known for just exploding in our faces at the worst time possible. Golem is cool, but I'm definitely going to give the Gigalith line the win here. It honestly outclasses the Golem line in every way. Better design, much better abilities, and Gigalith's shiny is perfect. In all honesty, I would use Gigalith in every playthrough of Unova possible if it wasn't for that dang needed trade. So, the Unova region will earn another point here. Next, we might as well compare the 3-stage fighting trait evolutions from each generation. The Machop line and the Timber line. And guys, this one's probably the easiest decision in the whole video. Machop, Machoke, and Machamp are universes better than Timber, Girder, and Conkeldurr. Machamp has a better move pool than Conkeldurr, and the entire Timber line is just filled with ugly designs. I've never really been a big fan of Pokemon with props, and theirs is no exception. Also, the veins on them are disgusting. Congrats on the easy win here, Kanto. Next, we'll compare the Psychic-type Dream-Eating Tapers of each region. Both of these lines are kind of underwhelming and overall forgettable. I think, however, Munna and Musharna will take the win here. I'm kinda a well-known Drowsy hater, mostly because of how they used to swarm me in Pokemon Go, but also, Hypno's a registered pedo across the Sevi Islands. So, yeah, that's probably not all that good. And as for Musharna, I think it's alright, and that's enough for it to get the win here. Plus, I love the Gen 1 Easter egg about the Munna line here, so Unova takes another win. Now, let's compare some mons that are commonly confused for as evolutions of one another. The bovines of each region, that being Tauros and Bouffalant. Bouffalant will for sure take an early lead here, as I prefer its design to that of a normally boring looking Tauros. The afro makes this design really appealing to me. It's also so much more intimidating than its Cantonian counterpart. As for battling, I'd say they're about equal. I mean, their base stat totals are both an even 490, with Bouffalant sacrificing a little speed for a bit more bulk. Tauros, on the other hand, hits hard and hits fast. Plus, how could I not mention that Tauros is literally the most abundant Pokemon in Ash's artillery, with a whopping 30 different bulls back at Oak's lab. This one's super close, but I think I'm going to take Bouffalant in a very close win here. Next, we'll be looking at the frog/toad/tadpole lines of each region. The Poliwag line and the Timepole line. I'm a pretty big fan of both of these lines, so this one's definitely going to be tough. I think for this, I'll do a 1v1 comparison matchup of each form of each line. Looking at Poliwag and Timepole first. I won't really consider stats or battling prowess for this one because, well, they're both first stage Pokemon. They're meant to be crappy. But as far as design, I slightly prefer Timepole. I mean, look at it. It's adorable. Now, let's look at Poliwhirl and Palpitoad, the awkward middle stage Pokemon. In battle, Palpitoad has a slight advantage because it's got that extra ground typing. And as you may know, the water ground combo is great. However, that's kind of where my praises for Palpitoad end. He's brutal looking and his existence seems like a painful one. And I can't help but mention Ash's Palpitoad is probably his worst Pokemon ever. He definitely should have evolved him. But unfortunately, he didn't. Meanwhile, Poliwhirl's design is great. He's a much better looking middle stage, and is honestly kinda cute. Plus, he got a starring role in the Pokemon Adventures manga. He was Red's first ever Pokemon with an epic evolution moment. Now for the final forms. Poliwrath vs Seismitoad. Two epic and powerful final forms. And while I like Poliwrath a lot, Seismitoad just simply outclasses it. Even if it does have one less base stat total, I think it's mostly because of typing and move pool. It only has one weakness, but it does have access to a diverse move pool. It can learn ice, poison, and even fighting type moves. So winning 2-1 here, the Seismitoad line will earn another win for Unova. Next up, we're going to be comparing the annoying Pokemon from each region. And by that, I of course mean the fake Pokeball Pokemon. The amount of sad and angry kids that Among Us and Electrode have made over the years is straight up disgraceful. I don't want to waste a lot of time or energy on either of these losers, but there's no doubt Among Us greatly outclasses Electrode. Electrode has kind of been known over the years for one thing: speed. Well, then maybe exploding too, but still, it's definitely kind of underwhelming. Meanwhile, Among Us has always been really solid in battle. With access to Spore and Regenerator, it's a really solid wall for any Pokemon team. As such, it will earn Unova another point. Nice little run they're on now. Now for another 2-in-1 combo. Let's look at the fighting brothers of each region. In this corner, we have the prize fighters from the dojo in Saffron City, Hitmonlee and Hitmonchan. And in this corner, we have the weird-looking Muppets of Unova, Sock and Throw. Both of these duos are practically the same, having one focus more on attack and the other having a focus on defense. We'll keep this fight short and only make it last one round. The Hitmon brothers get an easy knockout here. Now it's time for some garbage. Literally. We're going to be taking a look at Muck and Garbodor. Let's begin with the pile of purple sludge, shall we? It almost seems to me as if Muck gets off easier in the eyes of fans because he's from Kanto. Both Grimer and Muck's design really isn't all that good or creative. And I actually much prefer the design of their Alolan counterparts. However, they do not count here. But I can't deny that Muck got a really memorable moment in the original series anime. That, of course, being when it took down Jeanette's OP Bellsprout in the Kanto League. Meanwhile, Garbodor has received much more hate over the years. Many people point out this Pokemon as a lazy, unoriginal design. And I'll be the first to admit, I was a major hater of this Pokemon when it was first revealed, but as I've matured, I've come to actually like this Pokemon. It's a bit better in battle than Muck, and I'm also a huge fan of his Gigantamax form. He literally becomes the city of San Francisco. As such, Garbodor will get the Unova region another win here. Now we'll head to the ocean to do a comparison of the Jellyfish Pokemon of each region. Tentacruel vs. Jellicent. We've got two bulky and abundant Pokemon. Let me tell you, both of these Pokemon are a pain in the butt to battle, and it seems like they're everywhere in their respective regions. They're actually incredibly similar. However, Jellicent will earn the win here. Why, you might ask? For the sole reason of Jellicent having a cool male and female form. Yup, nothing more, nothing less. Now, how about we take a look at the pink chubby healers of each region? Chansey vs. Audino. Let me start off by being brutally honest here. I am not a big fan of either of these blobs. They honestly don't really stick out in any sense to me. I guess let's look at Chansey first. In just about any Kanto game, she is notoriously hard to find. And I'm not totally sure her elusiveness is worth it, as she's pretty underwhelming in game. But meanwhile in competitive battles, she's been pretty solid over the years. Literally. Especially with an Eviolite equipped, she's always been a great take for just about any team. That HP stat is ridiculous. Now for Audino. It really just seems like she's a watered down version of Chansey. If Chansey is Coke, Audino is Pepsi. If Chansey is The Simpsons, Audino is The Cleveland Show. Although I'll admit, it was nice that Audino was much more easy to capture in her respective games than Chansey was in hers. Plus, she really helped with that level grinding by giving out a great deal of EXP. So, she's definitely not all that bad. With all that being said, I'm confident that Chansey outclasses Audino, earning Kanto another point. And finally, we'll finish off by comparing the big boys. And by that, I mean the pseudo-legendaries of each region. Dragonite versus Hydreigon. Two of the most powerful Pokemon of all time. It's incredible. These two don't actually share a lot of similarities beyond just being dragon types. Hydreigon is dark, brutal, and mean. Meanwhile, Hydreigon is kind, lovable, but still powerful in its own right. Both of these Pokemon have been used by multiple regional champions. However, it's the original Dragon and original Pseudo Dragonite that'll pick up the win. And it's not because of stats, design, or battling prowess. It's only because of how hard Hydreigon is to get. You gotta get a crappy Zweilous all the way up to level 64? That's so ridiculous and unnecessary. Also, I mean, just look at the Masters 8 tournament. Dragonite was on like 3 different teams. Obviously, it's a notoriously good Pokemon. So Kanto will earn the final point. Now, let's add up the totals. Kanto earned points in the following categories. Starters, Regional Rodent, Regional Bird, Regional Bugs, 3-stage Trait Evolution Fighter, Pink Chubby Healer, Fighting Brothers, and Pseudo-legendary. And the Unova region earned their points in these categories. Dream Eating Typer, Bats, Frog/Toads, Garbage, Fake Pokeballs, Bovines, Jellyfish, and Tiny Cute Mythical. And altogether, let me do some math real quick. Carry the 2, PEMDAS. Okay, that brings the final score to 8 to 8? We have a tie? So, what does that mean? Well, I'll tell you. It means both of these regions are amazing. Neither are better than the other. Nostalgia and bias aside, every Pokemon region is great in one way or another, and they deserve our respect. Except for Galar, of course. Well guys, that's gonna do it for today's video. I had a ton of fun comparing these regions. But honestly, I'm more interested in hearing your opinion of these rankings and comparisons. Be sure to drop your thoughts in the comment section below. Thanks guys, and have a good one.